Hello and welcome to episode 55 of Fergo and the Freak. I'm that bloke from Rugby League Project, Andrew Ferguson. You can find me on Twitter at AndrewRP. And joining me once again is League Freak, who you can find on Twitter at League Freak. How are you, mate?
Very good. Very excited for this podcast. We've got a very special guest and really been looking forward to this for a number of weeks now, so I can't wait.
Yep, because today we have NRL referee Kasey Badger joining us. Hello, Kasey. Thanks for joining us.
G'day, guys. No problem at all.
Yeah, well,
So,
go on.
We always do this, hey?
Every time.
You go.
Gavin and I do this on our podcast as well. It's very well rehearsed.
Well, let's get into that. You've got a podcast with Gavin there. It's a Rest Roundup, I believe, for the NRL.
Yep.
How long's that been going on for?
Yes, it's probably been about a year now. So it's something that I'm a podcast addict. I forever have headphones in my ears and walking around the house or training, listening to podcasts. And we'd sort of been talking about it for a while, saying that we would really like to, start our own little show and talk about rugby league and refereeing. But historically, referees have been discouraged to do anything like that. We try to stay out of any media because we know the negative attention that it can bring. But then at a stage last year, through my job that I used to have with the NRL before I became a full-time referee, we were looking to, try and get a bit of the word out there about, refereeing in more of a positive light. So we trialled it at the second half of last season, and we record out of the NRL, the bunker, the studios there. And the digital team there really liked it, and we've changed a bit of the formatting, and, we learn as we go along. And we've continued it this year, and we really enjoy it because it gives us a platform to sort of talk about what we love and give rugby league fans an insight into things that I guess you don't get anywhere else. Like there's so many, different TV shows and radio shows and podcasts, but there's nothing that gives you an insight into what referees are thinking or doing or why we do certain things. So we thought, as massive fans of the game, like that Gavin and I are, that, it's just an extra element that other fans might enjoy.
Yeah, and that's one of the things, like I've always said that when people get on referees, I always say these are people that are not only rugby league experts. I mean, you guys know the rules better than anybody else in the world, but to do the job you do, and sometimes it's a thankless job, you've got to love the game so deeply. One of the things I would love to ask about the podcast that you do is, what are some of the positive and negative feedback you get? Because there is as you say, there's been a bit of a culture of referees should be seen and not heard. Are there times when you get positive feedback where people say, oh, it's interesting to hear that point of view, and other times where people just go off their heads like they always do?
Yeah. Well, the first point that you touched on is absolutely correct, that you've got to be a massive rugby league fan and love the game to referee and to referee for such a long time, which gets you to this elite level. So you're hard-pressed finding people who love the game, more than the group of us. And so we're not out there, despite what many people think, we're not out there to ruin games. We're there to do our best and hopefully actually make the game better. In terms of the feedback that we get, we know that there's always going to be, negative people and some keyboard warriors and whatnot, but overwhelmingly, it's actually been quite positive. I think people, especially when we ask for listener questions and stuff, I think we're starting to get people, tweet to us or message us to say, hey, can you explain this or that, and why has this happened or whatever. And we're more than happy to answer those genuine questions. And there's plenty of times where we know there are things that we do that I understand why people get frustrated with it or why that it's misunderstood, which is why, we like to explain why things happen in a certain way. So, we enjoy interaction with people, and then, we're smart enough to know, who are the keyboard warriors to ignore. They're usually people who have got, less than 20 followers and don't have a display picture and all that sort of stuff. And you look at their social media feeds and they're generally all negative. So they're the ones you just got to ignore.
Or they work in the media.
Yeah.
No need to go with that one. So I was going to say, how do you and Gavin handle that's sometimes savage public and media scrutiny, especially, I suppose, with Gavin, given that he's been doing the refereeing at the NRL level for quite a while now? I'd imagine he'd get noticed a bit in the streets and stuff like that. That must be tough.
Well, it's actually quite the opposite in that we have never, ever, so I've known Gavin for 12, 13 years, and never have we been out somewhere and had a negative interaction with someone.
That's
and
fantastic.
That just shows and it's generally like, we get a lot of people coming up to us, and asking questions and just having a chat and having a photo or whatever it might be. And it has all been positive. It's obviously on social media where people have that, barrier between us and them when things become negative. And, we've both had different threats to us and different things through, both private and public messages online. But, we know how to handle that ourselves. And if we weren't able to handle that, then we wouldn't be on social media and we wouldn't be doing the podcast. And there are certain people who can't handle that. And I totally understand why. It's just a different personality type that we are. So if we decide to put ourselves out there, we do it because we love the game and we love refereeing and we want to give people an insight into what we do and what we're about. So if we decide to do that, we know we're going to have to deal with some of the negative sides. And, we know how to deal with that ourselves.
Okay, so, getting away from all the negative stuff, right? I would love to hear about what your general week looks like. So say you have a game on, say, Saturday evening. What is the general week for an NRL official?
Yep. So we're very similar to how a club is structured, in that we're full-time officials. And the difference is that each week we break up into 8 teams because there are 8 games. So for our performance staff, for our strength and conditioning guys, it's a logistical nightmare in organising, who trains when and where and, what level of training based on whether you're on a Thursday night game through to a Sunday afternoon game. But I'll just give you an example of a Saturday of what a week would be. So on a Monday, if I had a Thursday or Friday night game, we would have a conditioning session on a Monday morning. We would also have a strength session and an off-leg session, which is somewhere 40 to 60 minutes of, bike, rower, grinder, those sorts of activities. We have a video team meeting of stuff that happened over the weekend, and we have our debrief. So about an hour to an hour and a half where we sit down with our coach from the weekend's games and we go over our performance and have our evaluation. If my game was on a Saturday, then I wouldn't do the run. A Saturday or Sunday, I wouldn't do the run session, but we would have a swim session to do, so it just gets replaced. Then on a Tuesdays are our day off, so because we don't get a day on the weekend off. Today recording on a Tuesday is our day to do the bits and pieces you've got to do in life and recover. And then on a Wednesday, we have another full day where we do strength, off legs, another video session, a conditioning session and skills on the field. Then through to then Thursday and Friday just depends on what day you're running. So if I have a Saturday game, on a Thursday I would have another off legs session, so like an hour of a conditioning sort of session inside, and some rehab stuff. And then on a Friday, we would have what we call our day 3 weights, which is mostly upper body sort of stuff, and game prep, which is about half an hour where we generally sit on a spin bike and sort of chat to each other in our team. So myself, the other touch judge, the 2 referees, and talk about our game on the weekend, how we're going to work together as a team. We then get a massage, which is one of the beauties of being a full-time athlete. I love that part of it. And then we move into our game on the weekend on Saturday, and then recovery swim on a Sunday. So, it's awesome. I couldn't think of anything I'd rather be doing.
It sounds interesting. Yeah. One thing I would like to ask is, obviously there's travel involved, and how much of your week do you spend not only with the traveling itself, but having to sort out everything in your life to be sorted so that you can go to North Queensland or New Zealand and stuff like that. And those little things that people don't think about, you just turn up, you're the officials. How much of your life is about just working out travelling?
Yeah, well, the thing with refereeing, which is different to the players, is that they get their schedule for the year and they know which games, what days they're playing each week. We get our appointments somewhere between 11 a.m. and midday on a Tuesday for our NRL games. And then because someone like myself who's also refereeing New South Wales Cup, that usually won't come out until somewhere between maybe 3 o'clock to 5 o'clock on a Tuesday. So I'm waiting till early Tuesday evening before I know what I'm doing that week. And then you've got to plan your life around that. So there's never any guarantees to people with, birthdays, weddings, any sort of plans. So it's pretty much on a Tuesday night where you start organising everything. People with, kids, school pickup, drop-offs, sport on the weekend. So Tuesday nights is when we sort of organise all of that sort of stuff. Who's taking Cooper to a footy on the weekend? Who's picking him up? And what time we get back from an airport or get to an airport and all the rest of it. So it can be quite hectic, but I guess by this stage we're sort of used to it.
Now, I was going to say, a lot of people don't realise this, but I believe you were the first female referee to officiate in a men's international match. Is that correct?
Men's international.
It was the 2012 game between Thailand and Philippines.
Yeah, Gavin and I got to do that. It was it was fantastic. Thailand and I forgot all about that one. Thailand and Philippines. That was a great experience. We got to travel to Thailand and we actually refereed together, and the Philippines side was red hot at the time. They had quite a few players. They had a handful that were playing NRL at the time. Like Kevin Gordon was there, Matt Shrama, and quite a few from New South Wales Cup and Queensland Cup. That was very different going to Thailand to do that.
How'd you handle the humidity?
Luckily we were there for about a week beforehand, so started to acclimatise to it. It was very warm, but I actually very much prefer the heat than the cold. I would take the Thailand heat over the Canberra cold any day.
Well, that's a given. That's a given.
My body just doesn't seem to want to get going in the cold.
I was going to say, where is your favourite place that when it comes up on the schedule, they say, oh, you're going here? Is there a favourite place that you're like, oh, nice? Like when they play games in Cairns or something, you're like, beauty, I'm in.
There's not one spot in particular. A lot of the times it's based on what hotels we stay at.
Well, that's what I want to ask. Who pay? What level of hotel do you stay at, and who pays for it? And I don't I'm not trying to find it, but it's like, you've got to be in 5-star, surely.
No, definitely not 5-star. But we can't complain about what we get. Like the NRL cover all of our travel. We generally travel with the NRL partner with Qantas, but it just depends on things like in Townsville. Qantas don't have direct flights there, so sometimes we don't fly with them. And all of the bookings are through a call, so all Novotel, Mercure, that sort of stuff. So they're generally all okay, but there are some that are definitely much better than others with nice pools and gyms and stuff like that. Like there's a great pool and gym at the hotel that we stay at on the Gold Coast. And then where we stay in Newcastle isn't as crash hot, but Melbourne's great. So there's not a lot of the times it's I just love rugby league and I love the NRL. I'll run anywhere, but I'm actually quite excited this weekend. So I've been refereeing for 16 years, and this is my 5th year in the NRL, and I've never run at Suncorp, and I'm on the touchline there this Friday night, so I'm absolutely pumped for that.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so that'll be that was the last ground, regular NRL ground for me to tick off the list, and as most people say, it's probably one of the best stadiums in the world for rugby league. So I'm pretty excited.
Yeah, that's going to be good. Now, I was going to say on your podcast, you bring up a lot of stats about referees and their performances.
Yeah.
So just to recap, how many kilometres on average would you say referees and sideline officials would run in a game?
Yep, so the referees run somewhere in the 10 to 12 kilometre mark, and the touch judges run somewhere in the 8 to 9 kilometre mark, just sort of depending on the game.
And so who would be the fastest referee? Like, would they be able to come up with the likes of Josh Adokar, for example?
Yeah, so this one's always hotly debated in the group, because there are people who say that the fastest means over 20 metres or 40 metres or 100 metres or whatever. So there's quite a few that Ashley Klein over 40 metres is very, very quick. There's a few of the others. Chris Butler likes to rate himself as well. It just really depends on what sort of distance we're looking at. But without being, it's just going to sound massively biased, but Badge is, especially for a 47-year-old, he's holds all the records in terms of how long he's been the fittest in the squad with all of our fitness testing. So he's a freak.
Yeah, that is bias. I'm sorry, I got to call that
out. But when he keeps winning all the fitness tests, it's hard to sort of dispute it. But that's why it's very frustrating for me when we train together. I can never catch him.
Okay, I got a strange question. You obviously get your kit from the NRL, but do they also supply like the whistles and things like that? And any of the other paraphernalia that you need to be in a sideline official, or do you have to go to Rebel Sport and pick up the whistle that you want to get? Like, I know it's a weird question.
No. Good question. No, we're not supplied with our whistles. It's all stuff we've got to get ourselves and just claim that on tax. All the on-field gear, so short socks, jersey, the flags. And our off-field kit, training gear, that's all supplied. But, boots and whistles, we've got to get all that ourselves. A few years back, probably a while ago now, maybe 8 years ago, we had a sponsorship through ASICS and we all got a pair of boots each year. But no, now it's all just get your own.
So, and here's my next question. Who's going to be the first referee that goes out with a gold-plated whistle? Like, is there someone that you'd like? Oh yeah, they're probably going to do it, because that's what I would do.
Be like the John Laws of referees.
I think everyone would cop too much flack for that. Actually, interestingly, part of the email address of Belinda Sharp's husband Clayton was about a gold whistle. So I think he had one. I think he had one when he was refereeing New South Wales Cup, because they do make them. But no, I don't think any of us would be the first ones to do that. I remember back.
It'd be a magnet for criticism, wouldn't it?
Well, back would have been maybe 10 years ago now, when Robert Finch was the boss of the NRL referees. All the referees only wore black boots, and Gavin was in Townsville one week, and there was a pair of red Asics, and he texted them to me, and he goes, "Oh, these look awesome," and we're actually the same size shoe, so we share our boots and our joggers and stuff like that. And I was like, yeah, get them. And he wore them the next week at a game at Brookvale, and at that stage, like I said, all the referees only had black boots, and the camera went on them and the commentators said something, so that attracted attention. And on the Monday, Finchy said to him, "If you ever wear them again, you'll be in New South Wales Cup." So that shows how the times have now changed.
Well, I've got one last question here. I don't know if you got another for you. I've got one here. It's if you could make one change to the rules of the game to make it better, what would it be?
Oh, we get asked this. I've got heaps of things that I would like to change, but what might make it better? I would be interested to see how the free play goes in the NRL, like what they had in Super League. It's chaotic for referees in terms of knowing exactly where the mark of the first infringement was, but it would create just that free hit for a team to chip and chase from their own inside their own 20-metre line or something like that. But I actually wouldn't. I don't think this would make it more exciting, but I think it would speed the game up. When we have the shot clocks for for the scrums and the goal line dropouts, and we work hard to get the players into the scrum and all of that. I would like us to just go, clock's on, and it's just, they've just got to do it. They've got to get in and they've got to get out, and we don't have to work our backsides off to do it. And it would stop them, hopefully, it would stop them sort of stuffing around in the scrum and us having to work so hard.
That's a good one.
Yeah. It's more of an interpretation of what we do with the shot clock rather than changing it.
Well, that's good. I mean, anything where you can reduce the amount of workload you guys have to do, because you're already doing a ton already as it is. So that was going to make your job easier.
Yeah, and I think we'll just speed it up rather than, because at the moment there are times where we're trying to work them in and they're just standing there getting this rest and just looking at us like we're sort of helpless to do anything because they'll just put their heads in at the last second. Yeah. So we feel it's a bit like, shooting someone with a water pistol. There's not much we can do.
maybe you should be allowed to just give them a kick in the bum.
Occasionally that's something we'd like to do, like turn the mic off and be able to say what we want on the field. But unfortunately, where the game is and the professional level it is at the moment, where
someone has to be the adult on the field.
Unfortunately, you should hear the things I say in my head sometimes.
Oh yeah, that makes me wonder. Like, have you ever had somebody that said something on a microphone that on the like when you're doing the replays back during the week, it's been picked up?
Oh, all the time. That happens weekly. Really? When that happens, and things where you just think, geez, I would love to say something, and not bad things back, but just things that make you go that we're just not allowed to say, or that might inflame certain situations. Just ways that look. I don't want to sound like it's negative, because 90% of the time on the field, players are very, very good. But occasionally things happen. You just think, geez, players have shots at us, and you just think, what if we had a shot at you for dropping that ball that was passed directly to your chest? I don't think you'd appreciate that.
Absolutely.
Well, I would love to ask, like, how much of the interaction that you have on the field is like just so much fun that you would love to, talk about the stories that you have of what a player has said and the laughs that you have on the field, because it must be just incredible. Sometimes you see a lot of it's great to see the interaction of the players and the referees and the officials, and most of the time you all seem to be just out there having fun.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a line that Badge and I use a lot, saying we'll put that in the book. We always talk about going, one day when we're old, we'll write a book and we'll put that one in the book, put that story in the book. And like you say, the majority of the time interactions on the field with players are quite positive, and we see them a lot. We go to club scrimmages, we referee, we go to their training sessions, we see them at hotels, at the airport before and after the game, all that sort of stuff. So you build rapport with a lot of players, and when you see them out on the field, sometimes you've got to be careful of where you draw that line. And a lot of these players we grew up with coming through the grades as well. And there's certain players that there's a few players playing in the NRL at the moment that I played with when I was, in the under 10s and stuff like that. So you've got everyone's got personal connections to players that you've got to draw lines with when you're out on the field in how you interact with them. But there are some good stories that, one day we'll all be able to tell once we're retired and away from the game.
How many of them are surprisingly gentlemanly?
The majority of them. Absolutely. It's something that I can't sort of wrap players enough, that, like I say, 90 to 95%, just as a random stat to throw out, are absolutely fantastic, which I think is a higher number than people in the general population. I'd
agree with that.
So I think most of the stuff that we cop is from the crowd and social media, not from players. I think interacting with players is positive, and like I said, as a massive fan of the game, there are times where talking to players or ex-players who are now in the media and commentators and stuff, and I just think, oh my God, like, I'm just talking to so and so or whoever, or this person knows who I am, or I'm having a joke with this player, and just thinking, this is awesome. Like, I would have, as a kid or as a teenager, I would have given anything to have been in this position. So it's pretty exciting.
That's
awesome.
fantastic. Well,
Well, I just have one more question. Just one
Alrighty,
more
mate.
question. When are we going to see you being in charge of the game? It's time. The NRL's got to give you the reins.
I wish I had the answer to that one.
Yeah.
You know, it can be frustrating at times, but I just got to keep doing what I'm doing. I acknowledge that I've had a horrendous run the last 4 years in terms of injuries. I've had 6 surgeries in the last 3.5, 4 years. And I've not had a preseason, like in terms of training through a preseason for 4 years, because I've been recovering from injuries and stuff. So I've definitely had a lot of those setbacks. And it's, that can be frustrating at times, but just got to keep doing what I'm doing and, hope I get there one day.
Yeah, well, throw one last one. When you watch a game of footy, do you actually watch the football or do you watch the referees?
It's a bit of both. It's impossible to not watch the referees or to make comment on certain rulings or certain aspects of the way the game is going. It would be similar to players watching games. They'll see a certain play that a team would do or a line a players run or whatever it might be, and it just stands out to them. But I definitely have the ability to just watch it as a fan. We watch. I get annoyed if I don't see all 8 games of football on a weekend, because I'm travelling or say for example this Friday night I'd be in the sheds for the game getting ready, which means I would miss watching the 6 o'clock Friday night game, and that would annoy me. So I'd go and watch that game later in the week. Because I just love it. Like Saturday night, last Saturday, watching the Melbourne and Manly game, the amount of times we were yelling at the TV and just, in excitement of just going, oh, wow, how good is this? We still get a lot of joy out of watching the game as fans, which is good that we're able to sort of separate ourselves from it like that.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you. Look, thank you so much for coming on. We would love to have you back. It's like I could talk to you for hours and hours about like the refereeing and.
I could talk about rugby league all day long.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic. Happy to come back. So thank you so much.
No problem at all, guys. Anytime, hit me up whenever you want.
No worries. Well, thanks for dropping by. And we'll let you go to your day off.
Yeah, thanks. About to take off now and go and record our podcast, so go and get that done.
All right, everyone, check into to that today as well. That'll be on the NRL podcasting app, I believe.
Yep, that's it.
All righty, and thanks for stopping by and listening, everyone, and we'll catch you all next time.
See you guys. Bye.